Hi, everyone. Welcome to our very last session of our two-day symposium for the Brass Spring 2025, nope, 2026 online symposium. You can tell it's the last session. I am Nora McKenzie. I'm the chair of the Business Reference and Academic Libraries Committee for Brass and also the co-chair of the symposium subcommittee alongside Kelly LaVoice. I also have a fantastic subcommittee that I work alongside who's helped put all of this together. Those folks include Christy Cunningham, Kate Cummings, Brian Garrison Wynn, and Doris Dwee. All of our sessions today and yesterday are recorded and they will be sent out with the slides from all the presenters to everyone who's registered. If you haven't already, please do take a moment to mute your audio and your video as we get started. Thank you again for spending time with Brass and all of our presenters today. I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Brian, who's the moderator of our next session.
Hey y'all, welcome. I'd like to introduce you all to Elaina Fisher at Southern New Hampshire University with her presentation Company Research Strategist, Business Information Literacy at Scale. Take it away, Elaina.
All right, thank you, Brian. I'm going to share my screen. Someone holler at me if my slides are not visible. All right, as Brian mentioned, I am Elaina Fisher. Thank you all for joining me for this session. We are at the end of the symposium, and for some of us, we are near the ends of our work days, and I'm grateful for you all sticking around for me, and I'm grateful for your curiosity on this topic. I am a manager of information literacy with Southern New Hampshire University's Shapiro Library. I have been with SNHU for 11 years now, 9 years as a reference librarian on campus, and now coming up on 2 years in this role as the information literacy librarian supporting our business programs. I will briefly summarize our learning objectives for this session. We will talk about translating Brass business research competencies into institutionally relevant learning outcomes, describe a structured approach for designing an asynchronous business information literacy program, and we'll also look at promotional strategies for increasing engagement with asynchronous learning objects. And before I get too far into the weeds, I want to highlight a few presentations that my team has done on our library badging program, just in case some of you are thinking, hey, this sounds kind of familiar. Last summer, my team presented at the ACRL NEC NELIG Joint Conference in June, and also in a Spring Share Learning Lab in July. That was recorded. I do have the link available on the slides for when they're made available after the session. If you want to know more about our badging program in general, and specifically our tips and tricks for using LibWizard to create longer interactive learning modules, I highly, highly recommend the Learning Lab. Some of our team has also going to be presenting at LOEX next week. So if you will be at LOEX and want to know more, definitely check them out. I'm going to look at the landscape here at SNHU. The university, well, let me put the slide, there we go. The university got its start in 1932 as a New Hampshire accounting and secretarial school. This is an ad from the Manchester Union Leader at that time. It offered day and evening classes and weekly term starts in 2 courses, an accounting and secretarial course, and had around 50 students. And fast forward to today, almost 100 years later, a number of name changes and a little bit of growth, and Southern New Hampshire University now serves approximately 225,000 students across 200 or so programs. We have a vibrant campus in Manchester, New Hampshire, but as you can imagine, the vast majority of our students are online. Our campus has a School of Business that offers everything from an associate's and certificates up to PhD in international business, but we have campus librarians who work with those programs. I work almost exclusively with our global campus or GC business programs. So moving forward in this presentation, I'm largely going to be discussing an online context. Let's look at the GC business vertical. So vertical is a term we use for academic departments. Within the business vertical, we have approximately 81,000 students across 50 or so programs. I'm giving an estimate because I pulled these numbers last month and they are already out of date given our term start schedule. Let's take a quick look at our business students. Our top 3 business programs are the 3 business administration programs. We have around 50,000 students in these 3 programs alone. The BS in Business Administration is SNHU's largest single program, and the MBA is our largest grad program. So we are at our core still a business school. I've also included some pie charts on here with gender and race breakdowns for business students, mostly to tell you that If you think about the average business student at SNHU, they're probably in a business administration program, probably female, and very likely not white. I didn't put other demographics on here, but they're also likely in their 20s and likely to be first generation students. So how does the Shapiro Library fit within this context? Here's our library building on campus. The library is part of the Wallach Library Learning Commons, named for Edward Wallach, who's an alum and a former trustee who owns a bunch of Dunkin's franchises in New England. Unfortunately, that did not mean we got a Dunkin's in the building, but I promise you we did ask. The Shapiro Library has two large teams, Collections, Access, and Technology team, got the cool acronym. Our side of the house is Content Creation and Research Support. We are the reference and instruction librarians. We are just named in a way that makes sense within the broader SNHU context. On the content creation team, we have information literacy librarians, myself included, and content creation specialists who are also degreed librarians. And one common question we get, given the size of the population we serve, is, wow, your team must be huge. And we unfortunately are not. The content team is just 5 people on a library team that totals just 29. And I am the only liaison to the business vertical. So how in the world do we provide instruction to 250,000 students with a team of just 5 people, you may ask? Great question. The answer is scale. Scalability was a buzzword, but it really became reality for us when the number of our students grew exponentially and the need for asynchronous support was also very real. There is no synchronous component to our online programs. The overall expectation across the university for many support teams is to lead with content. We make self-help style content available so that students can find what they need at their point of need, which is very normally not during standard business operating hours. So with that in mind, last year we developed an information literacy content hub. We launched last summer. This is a series of 12 sections, each with 3 lessons drawn from the ACRL framework. The team worked with the university's curriculum design team to translate the framework into competencies and skill statements that are a shared language across the university. And we then developed the content hub based on those. Developing a research question, Boolean searching, understanding peer review, it's all there. The Content Hub also serves as a repository for our information literacy learning objects like videos, infographics, and interactive tutorials. The goal was and still is to have these resources available for faculty and instructional designers to weave into courses as needed. Our research support team has these available to send to students, and it's also discoverable by students who are seeking help on their own. And our library badging program naturally grew out of the Content Hub. We were exploring assessment methods, and gamifying modules just grew out of that discussion. Our base information literacy offering is a series of 4 badges: Library Navigator, Expert Evaluator, and Research Expert 1 and 2 that lead to an Information Literacy Fundamentals meta badge. So a badge for us is a learning module that we create in LibWizard. It's an interactive tutorial. It takes 45 minutes to an hour to complete. Assessment questions are built in throughout the module. Users have unlimited opportunities to answer each question, but they have to answer every question correctly in order to move on. We have a different narrative scenario for each badge. In one, you're a detective. In another, you're a journalist. Some are more escape room themed. We have some scavenger hunt themes. It's all intended to be immersive and engaging while presenting resources and instruction. So a common question we get at this point: why badges? What platform do you use? How'd you get it set up? So the answer to why is twofold. One is that the university already had a badging system, so we were able to jump on it easily. And 2, we don't have a credit-bearing class or information literacy requirement or anything like that to motivate students to independently offer their valuable time to take an optional learning module. So the badges function as a motivator because they can display them on their resumes and LinkedIn profiles. The platform we use is called Parchment, formerly Canvas Credentials, formerly Badger. Unfortunately, I can't help with how'd you get it set up or how much does it cost kinds of questions, because that was all done at the university level before the library hopped on board. I'm going to sidestep just 1 second and talk about library engagement. Nearly 2 years ago, we switched our authentication system from Easy Proxy to Open Athens. If you haven't already surmised, SNHU was really big on data. And 2 numbers that matter a lot in much of the higher level strategic planning are persistence, which is students enrolling term after term, and success, which is students hitting a certain benchmark of academic performance. We asked the data team to map Open Athens authentications to persistence and success metrics, and the result was really beautiful. We were able to prove with statistical significance that students who use the library have higher success rates. And this was published in the university-wide report and highlighted in an internal series of coffee chats where people from across the university gather to talk about things that matter to all of us. So here is just one chart that came from that report. I'll walk you through it. They broke down success rate data by academic vertical. You can see the business vertical over on the left. The yellow bars show student success rates without library usage, and the dark blue bars show success rates with library usage. The blue line connecting the verticals shows library usage rates. You can see it on the right that the STEM vertical suffers from the lowest library usage rates, and the social sciences vertical experienced the biggest jump in success with library usage. But it was the business vertical that got a specific call out in the report because of its sheer size. 1/3 of SNHU students are in the business vertical. They have a current library usage rate of 58%, and the success rate gained from library usage is approaching 9%. So therefore, a challenge was issued. Increasing library usage among these students could potentially lead to increased overall success rates. So where do I go from here, right? I have a pretty obvious and publicly declared need. I have a little less than half of business students don't use library resources. When I was hired into this role 2 years ago, I inherited a wealth of LibGuides and FAQs on business topics, but no real structured business information literacy strategy. So this slide summarizes my plan of attack. The goal was to create a plan for business research information literacy grounded in BRASS business research competencies. I've seen other symposium presentations where librarians have translated the competencies into their own context, and I love seeing how instruction takes different forms based on the same substance. We already did it ourselves with the ACRL Framework, and I was confident that this would work for me too. It was important that what I do falls in alignment with the library's overall information literacy strategy to lead with content, make it asynchronous and scalable. And it was also important to tackle the immediate pressing information needs first. So this slide summarizes where I've landed. It's probably not too much of an intellectual mystery given what you've already heard me say in this presentation. This initial series of business research badges touches on the three main business information needs for our learners: company, industry, and market. I don't have quantitative evidence to back that claim, but in the 9 years that I worked as a reference librarian before stepping into this role, I logged more than 25,000 interactions with students, and I feel I can confidently, anecdotally say that company, industry, and market are their three biggest business information needs. I also added data literacy to this badge series as well, not as a need identified from student interactions, but from working with instructional designers on program developments. I am frequently asked for data literacy content, and we honestly don't have a lot. There was an article published in the Ticker last year identifying data literacy as a common gap that businesses see when they hire recent grads. And our university is also in the middle of a big push for data literacy among staff, so the time seemed ripe. My timeline for developing this is 2 years, and as you can see on the bottom of this slide, it also encompasses work with our curriculum design team and refreshing business-focused library guides and learning objects as needed. Curriculum design work has been a fascinating process for me. The purpose, as I mentioned, was to translate BRASS business research competencies into the SNHU environment. And this has two benefits. One, we are speaking the same language as the university. No library jargon. We're easily able to say, this is what's important to you, and it's also important to me. And there's some legitimacy to it. And two, by basing our badge work on SNHU competencies and skill statements like this, we are setting up our learning modules for broader use in courses. We currently have one library-created learning module functioning in a course as a required assignment, and I'll touch on that later, but that's a dream we have for all of our badge modules. In a nutshell, how our curriculum designers work: they take our goals and desired learning outcomes and translate them into SNHU competencies. We have a 1C, 1C model here, so 1 credit equals 1 competency, and that means that campus and GC versions of courses have the same competencies, even though they have varying learning materials, assessments, instructors, etc. Curriculum design also attaches Lightcast alignments to competencies. Lightcast is a skills taxonomy. Again, that's a shared language. All SNHU badges are tied to Lightcast skills because they are recognized by employers. In the fall of 2025, I started this process working with the same curriculum designer who worked with our team through the ACRL framework. She completed the 2 BRASS foundational competencies and the company and organization research competency in November. And in June, we'll be starting again with industry research and market research. And what you've been staring at the screen as I've talked through this is a sample of the work for the company and organization research BRASS competency. All right, let's get into the badge work itself. I opted to start with a company research badge because the library had an existing badge on the topic that was in need of an overhaul. It was based on a previous information literacy strategy we had of using virtual research workshops, where students would attend the workshop or view a recording and then take a quiz, which would lead to a badge. This was a successful program 100,000 students ago, but it had a few issues. It wasn't entirely scalable, it wasn't entirely asynchronous, and it relied on quizzes and grades, which we are now not allowed to do in badges. These aren't credit bearing, so we can't issue a grade. You can read about it and get the lesson plan in the book chapter I have cited on the slide, Teaching Company Research Through a Virtual Research Workshop, if that's a model that you're interested in looking into. But my goal was to replace this badge, revise the learning objectives to incorporate BRASS competencies, revise the assessment to remove any quiz and grade language, and revise the learning experience for accessibility and engagement. And my timeline. So here's the timeline for the company badge redevelopment. While the curriculum design work was in process, I went through 5 phases of work: planning, creation, review, publication, and promotion. And one big question that we kind of get in a lot of our presentations here is how long does it take you to make a badge? So I kept track of that for you. Outside of the curriculum design work, this took me just under 40 hours spread over 5 months. The creation phase took the longest. I blocked out as much time as I could over the course of 2 weeks and just plowed through it. And so it took me 23 hours to create the interactive tutorial in LibWizard, an average of 30 minutes per slide. The planning phase, this went by pretty quickly for me, or at least it felt like it did. I collected all existing library content on company research, including an extensive library guide, a bunch of videos and infographics, a ream of FAQs, and I analyzed the previous badge content and results to see what worked and what didn't. I also wrote up learning objectives for the badge derived from the company and organization research competency, and I have those listed on the screen. The creation phase. In the drafting process, I used AI to brainstorm the scenario and outline a badge. You can see a section of the prompt on the screen. I followed the create prompt model. This is just one model that SNHU uses. Our library has an AI and media literacy guide. I have a link here on this slide with more information about that prompt model if you're curious. I provided the same prompt to 3 LLMs. I used ChatGPT, Latimer, and Copilot. Latimer, if you aren't familiar, is trained on a more diverse set of materials. So the theory is that it will give you a more diverse output. I ended up going with this scenario and outline from ChatGPT. I have a link to my ChatGPT chat transcript if anyone wants to see it. Just know that I heavily edited what it gave me. The writing was boring. It was not engaging at all. It didn't have language that aligned with our existing content. I didn't keep the slide order. I added or removed several slides, etc. The outline really was just a starting point. Also, our SNHU AI team requests that we use specific custom instructions with ChatGPT to encourage concise answers, avoid excessive praise, and present both potential strengths and weaknesses of the response. So if you drop this same prompt into your ChatGPT account, you will likely have a very different dialogue. And one question we get here a lot, usually asked with some angst, why use AI? Why use AI when you can just use people? And I hope I already answered this question where I am the people. I am a solo business librarian supporting 81,000 students. I would love a human business librarian buddy. One is not forthcoming, so we do the best we have with the tools we have available to us. I do estimate that this saved me maybe 8 to 10 hours in the drafting phase by using an AI tool. The design and build process, I used Canva to create slide backgrounds and then imported them into a LibWizard interactive tutorial. For accessibility purposes, all text needs to be in LibWizard or in an alt text in order for the screen reader to pick it up. So Canva backgrounds are really largely decorative. These are screenshots of the first 2 slides that set up the scenario. You're an intern at a consulting firm and one of your largest clients has been approached by a smaller firm about a potential acquisition. Your team is tasked with researching the smaller firm. So as the user completes the scenario, they will identify a public company, research using library databases and other sources, generate a list of competitors, and contribute to a SWOT analysis. A note on the graphics. I wanted a modern office vibe. So I found a set of graphics in Canva of people working together in an office that I liked for its diversity and representation, and I developed the slide backgrounds from there. I mentioned earlier that the average time spent was 30 minutes per slide, but I know I spent way too much time playing with plants and carpets and testing different wallpapers, so you can feel free to factor that into your judgment. I apologize for a cramped slide, but I wanted to get a few more sample slides from the tutorial in for you. This is an interactive LibWizard tutorial, so you can see the flashing blue hotspots in the library databases slide. These contain more descriptive and instructional text and occasionally links to other library resources like FAQs. We also incorporate video widgets into our badges. Here you can see the widget for Emergent Market Atlas walkthrough video I made last summer. Based on prior feedback, we aim for 3 or fewer videos per badge, and all videos are 3-ish minutes or less in length, and we strongly suspect students skip these videos. Assessment is integrated throughout the tutorial rather than saved to the end. As you can see in the mini challenge slide here, there's one question that a user needs to answer. One thing I did frequently in this module is to send users out to databases or external websites to answer questions. So a lot of these really are task-based questions, like searching for a NAICS code, generating a list of companies in Emergent Market Atlas, and conducting a search in Gale Business Insights. The review process, this is often the longest phase of badge development, but it doesn't give me much to do outside of fits and spurts of feedback integration. We have 3 phases of review. We do an internal review on the content team. We have an UX review with a library UX team, and we also get student feedback from library student workers. Content team feedback is excruciatingly detailed. They catch everything from typos and missed punctuation to scope and assessment, balancing ease of navigation, academic rigor, as well as subject matter expertise whenever possible. Our internal UX team then goes through it with a fine-tooth comb to check for accessibility, everything from color contrast to the density of the text, screen reader checks. They also confirm the content and interactive elements meet a minimum standard of WCAG 2.1 level AA and align with neurodiversity design system standards. And for student feedback, we utilize our library student workers, starting with research support team. Those are the student workers that staff our library chat. And branching out to the library user experience student workers as needed. That's another team that got a cool acronym, LUX. They are campus-based student workers who staff our information desk, among other duties within the library building. All students who review for us are retroactively awarded the badge once it's published. We also consider module scores during this time. Users are not graded on the assessment, but LibWizard tracks the first attempt at answering a question, so we can get useful data out of that. For example, if everyone who gets a question wrong is coming up with the same wrong answer, there may be an issue with how the question is phrased or the instructional content leading up to the question. So I'm going to show you a selection of some of the feedback I got during this time. Felt long to me, but not being familiar with business subjects, I did feel it was educational. This is a good point. This is likely going to feel like a slog for non-business students. It's on the shorter end as far as some of our badges go, at just over 30 slides and 13 questions, but it's very specific material. But since it's designed for business students, I opted not to do anything with this unless I start to get this, it feels too long, feedback from business students as well, which I haven't yet. This is a longer one. I won't read the whole thing out, but essentially calling out that I have a higher percentage of fill in the blank questions, not just multiple choice or select all that apply. And we're keeping an eye out for student feedback to see if this is a format that they prefer. Overall, for scale, we need these to be self-grading, right? Like I can't ask for long answer responses or anything that would require me to individually assess it. Short answer responses are accommodating to that though, so we're seeing how this goes. Excuse me. And this last one, this was my favorite. Business research is such a difficult topic, and I feel like you made it so straightforward. I need you to explain the show Succession to me next. I've not seen Succession, so sorry. But I smile when I see this one. And I think it also shows that an immersive narrative can be a really functional instructional tool. So the badge went live on January 7th. Publication involved working with the badging team for the little badge graphic, as well as getting it live in Parchment. On the library end, I published the company research strategist page on our badge guide. We also like to refer to badges where appropriate on other LibGuides. So in this case, I added a page to our company information guide. Once I have 3 badges, I will be able to create a business research badge guide. 3 badges is a guideline set by our internal UX team for meriting its own badge guide. So that will have to wait until next fall for me. In many ways, I still feel like I'm in the promotion phase for this badge, but as I wrote up the slide, it's really nice to see this list. I feel like I really did get this badge out in front of a lot of people. I started with direct outreach to the associate deans in the business vertical that oversee curriculum, and with some assistance, got it emailed to business adjunct faculty and also got it announced in the business faculty community. I promoted it to our active business program developments, which includes instructional designers and subject matter experts. I got it promoted on the SNHU intranet, the source. as well as COLT, the Center for Online Learning and Teaching, which is the online faculty professional development portal. And as part of that, they also worked with us to create a custom announcement template so that faculty can easily promote it to their students. We also shared it along with our other new badges directly with students on the library website in the news and updates section front and center. I'd planned for updates for the module in March, as it includes questions around dates of SEC filings and financial data reported on balance sheets. I took the opportunity to look at the stats around the badge completions and made updates to the user experience to help alleviate some unnecessary pain points. A recent LibWizard update now gives you stats like completion rates. So I was able to see that the completion rate for this module was a super disappointing 21.95%. I wish it would tell you what slide they were on when they abandoned. But hey, we do the best we can with the information we're given. So I looked at response accuracy rates, thinking that would help me pinpoint which questions might be causing people to bail. There was one that had an accuracy rate of just 33%. And I thought, that's probably telling. That's one that asks users to use Merchant Market Atlas to generate a competitor list. The problem I realized was that even with scheduled quarterly checks, the data in the database was changing too quickly for me to keep this as an accurate question. It's a simple competitor search, how many companies in the US with a certain NAICS code. But in the short 2 months the badge was live, the answer was already different. So I solved this by allowing for a range of answers. I think the answer is currently 26. So I've allowed for answers between 24 and 28. It's not my favorite solution to the problem, but I don't have the bandwidth to do weekly searches in Merchant Market Atlas without losing my sanity. So we're going to go with it for now. I also reduced some of the wordiness on the slides to reduce cognitive overload for students. Let's talk about results for a second before we wrap up today. Unfortunately, given the newness of this badge, I don't have enough results to really tell you, yes, this is working, or no, this was a bad idea. We are building self-help resources, so there's a sense where it's like all we can do is create the necessary resources and make them findable and get them in front of students when they need them. We can't force people to take them. Unless, so we got very fortunate with one of our badge modules on source evaluation, expert evaluator. One of our librarians was on a course development for IDS 104. It's an early course with a lot of introductory basics, critical thinking kind of topics. This development was fast-tracked, and they realized they needed to create an assignment to assess source evaluation. And our librarian was able to say, hey, we happen to have a module that fits the bill. So we made a copy of the module that doesn't point to the badge and instead creates a statement of completion. We aren't allowed to call it a certificate because that word has a specific meaning. And given our size and the number of first-year students we have taking this course every term, we're up to around 30,000 students that have interacted with this module. And that's enough. We were able to run this data against the same persistence and success metrics that we did previously with Open Athens authentications. The data analysis is hot off the press. We just got the report this month, so I don't have a tidy graph like before to show you, but I can give you some highlights. The library badging program demonstrates statistically significant positive associations with student success metrics, particularly persistence into the next term. The analysis reveals meaningful equity dimensions with Black African American students showing the strongest badge-associated gains, and the overall evidence supports the value of library badges as a learning resource for students. This is super exciting for us. To expand on the equity dimensions a little, I'll just read a little bit from the report. Students who earn badges are likely to persist to the next term at higher rates, succeed in their courses, and maintain enrollment. These tendencies are especially pronounced among groups that face greater academic barriers. Overall, the data points to badge earning as a meaningful signal of student engagement, with the strongest predictive value for younger students and those from historically underserved racial groups. So we can't prove causation here, but it's looking good for us to prove a positive association. And what are we going to do with this data? I'm going to shout it from the rooftops, obviously. The library tech team is working on securing a spot in a future coffee chat for us to present this data to the broader university. And we are absolutely using this in our promotion as we talk to deans and faculty. Like, look, we have data that shows a positive relationship between library usage and higher student success rates. And we also have data that shows a positive relationship between earning a badge and higher persistence rates. So please help your students succeed by getting them into the library.
Just cutting in, Elaina, with that reminder about we're getting close to the half hour.
Perfect.
That
Thank
you
you.
asked for. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. So the future. So what are my next steps for business research instruction? I plan to complete the business research information literacy plan around this time next year with the final 3 learning modules. The data literacy badge is due to publish next month with the title Workplace Data Navigator. Industry and market research modules are slated for next year. I do have the option to build more modules based on BRASS competencies as needed. I can envision like a finance and economics track, but I would probably only do that with the support or at the request of the business academic vertical because that would reach a smaller subset of our population. And I would want to know that that's a needed element. But I am dreaming big because why not? I would like to get enough submissions on these to run my own data request for comparing to persistence and success metrics. For that, I think it would only be possible with full integration with a significant course or program. There are already some changes underway with the positioning of the library within the spaces that oversee learning resources and course assignments to possibly support that. So we will have to see. And that's all I have. Thank you all for listening. I have my contact info up on the screen. As you've listened to me ramble for the last half hour, you can probably tell I'm always happy to talk about this stuff. As we head into the Q&A, I'm happy for questions. I'm also happy for any thoughts you may have on increasing engagement with asynchronous self-help materials. How do you promote these kinds of materials in your library? What are some strategies that have worked for you? Things like that. Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, they can unmute or they can just add those questions to the chat.
Hi, this is Annette Buckley. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for a great presentation. I just wanted to shamelessly promote that I'm the chair of the Business Research Competencies Task Force, and the revision, so version 2.0 of the Business Research Competencies, we are frantically working on it, and so stay tuned. I'm hoping that we will have some that we'll be able to get that revision out within the next few weeks, at least, to BRASS leadership for review. So yeah, excited about that.
Cool. That's awesome. I saw that ACRL is updating the framework to like incorporate like AI concepts in there. So it does not surprise me to hear that the BRASS competencies will kind of follow suit. So neat. Thank you.
Elaina, I have a question. Actually, I have lots of questions because I'm on a campus of about 16,000 students, and about half of those are online students. Some graduate, some hybrid, some very close geographically, but still. So I'm at the University of North Dakota. So I guess we have all kinds of support structures for faculty related to teaching, and they're similar, but yet not as robust as what you have. It seems like. So um, I guess my question is, if speaking to me or someone else in the audience, um, where there's some consultation that's available, but it's not as comprehensive and systematic in terms of getting the feedback. And it sounds like it's a very structured model, and it's very,
Mm.
very inspiring. But what would you suggest for those of us who maybe don't have quite as much access to those kinds of resources on the back end as you're going through the process? And the second question of that is, how has the feedback that you received from those folks, whether it be the accessibility people or the instructional design people, how has that changed, not just, you know, and the tweaking process, but maybe helped you to rethink or shift the way you did something, at a larger scale?
Sure. So the first part of your question about, the kind of resources that we have available. So because we have like a leading with content approach to information literacy instruction at this point, our team is really structured around that. And we have in just the past 2 years created a ton of learning objects. We have if a question comes in, it has long been, fairly common for us to, hey, we'll write up an FAQ for that because a lot of people probably have the same question. But now our approach has shifted to, hey, if this is like a really common thing, maybe we should make a video, or maybe we should make an infographic or some sort of visual for those who learn best, not just with blocks of text, right? And we have through our internal UX research team has kind of pinpointed for us that a lot of students would like interactive content, which we have with these modules, larger learning modules, but we are starting to kind of get into shorter bite-sized chunks for interactive tutorials as well. But the as far as creating the longer module, you can speak from experience that it's a lot easier when you have that kind of like that content base to work with. So because we had already done the work to kind of translate a lot of our text-based LibGuide and FAQ content into visual objects, this badge really did come together kind of quickly. If I had had to create all of the content and like FAQs on how to do a competitor search, or if I had to create a video for walkthrough for Emergent Market Atlas as a part of this badge process, that would have taken a lot longer. Um, so I think my advice for folks who don't have kind of that base of content to start with is just to start building it. We use Canva, which is a fairly accessible medium to kind of create those objects, a lot of the visual ones anyways, and just kind of having them and making them available and like linking them in FAQs or embedding them in guides is a really good starting point. And I think your second question was around feedback and kind of integrating that, beyond like little tweaks here and there. One example, as I kind of touched on it in the presentation, was that we have, videos and guides, and some early feedback told us maybe more than 3 videos was too many. But we do have, so that's a bigger shift in terms of, hey, how we're presenting information within a learning module, that we may have to kind of rethink how information is formatted, and that could potentially take quite a bit more time. Some other good feedback that we have gotten, largely it's positive. Students really like having something that's interactive and immersive, but audio is another big piece. And I don't have audio on this badge, but I am weaving that into my data literacy badge that's publishing next month. And we will use Audiate, which is a Camtasia Suite tool, and also Beyond, which you can make animated videos, to use AI audio to kind of smooth this process out, where we'll have audio narrations for the slides. And that's something else that students have said really helps with the immersive piece, but it's also kind of a big structural change. So we'll have the text of, the people speaking on the slide kind of telling the story of the scenario, but we'll also have like an audio widget built in to LibWizard to do that. A couple examples.
Awesome. Thank you. It looks like there's some questions in the chat.
Oh, so
Can you
sorry,
see
Brian.
those?
I think someone's had their hand up for a minute. I just
Oh,
wanted to,
okay.
wasn't sure if you saw that. I
I
think.
didn't see that. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Robbie, I think your hand's raised.
Yes, thank you. No worries. So Elaina, first of all, I just sent you a LinkedIn invite with a lot of like verbal things around that thought. My question to you. So what is the reason that a student would complete this? What is the carrot for them to actually engage with your badge?
So for badges in general, like the badge itself is the carrot.
Okay.
And we have, so for the one module that we have in a course, the expert evaluator module, that's a required assignment. It's a pass-fail assignment. They have to complete it and pass it for their course. So that's kind of the reward they get for doing that module. For the rest of them that are just badges, that badge is pretty much the reward.
Okay.
We have kind of envisioned a model or a workflow where faculty may be like, hey, I'm noticing you are having some confusion around where to go for company research. The library has some really great content. Here's an awesome module that they have. You could try this, and kind of promote it kind of on the fly at the student's point of need. But because it is a longer module and we have a lot, the vast majority of our students are like non-traditional aged,
Right.
and working full-time, families, all of that,
Yep.
caregiving. So asking someone to take 45 minutes to an hour feels like a big ask, outside of what they can get for grades. And so having the badge is really what we're kind of leaning into as that motivator piece at this point.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Looks like there are questions in the chat as well. Can you see those, Elaina?
I think I just found the chat. So
Okay,
yes.
all right.
um, let's see. When a student needs help that they don't find online, where do they go? We have 24/7 live chat support. So I'm not sure the actual hours of the chat, but for a good chunk of the day, that is staffed by our research support team. We have library student workers who are the front lines for that chat service, and we, as well as some research support specialists who are kind of like the tier two support and answer the more difficult things. If a business research question comes in on chat, that our research support specialists are superb, that if they feel that hey, this is a bigger issue or this is a bit over my head, they will forward that to me and I provide this kind of tier three support for that. So that's available via chat and email. We used to have phone support and that was cut about 2 years ago, but I can't imagine trying to field phone calls from a couple 100,000 students at this point. So, but yes, our online chat is very popular. And have we considered sharing of our materials via the ACRL Sandbox or Cora? I don't think we've looked into that, but I will make that note, Christina. That's a good one. We did put in to present at ALA and didn't get in, but like I said, our team is presenting at LOX, so we're trying to kind of get the word out about kind of what we're doing and what our data is like. And I think next year, kind of we're going to look into some maybe publishing opportunities as well as other presentation opportunities. Um, and I believe, yeah, I don't think we've narrowed anything down beyond that at this point. And I think that was all the questions in the chat, but if I missed one, just let me know.
That looks right to me so far. We have a few more minutes here, 2 or 3 more minutes. Well, it looks like we folks are speechless because of it. That was a great presentation, Elaina.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to be sharing this presentation with my colleagues who are not business librarians throughout my organization because I think it's inspiring and it gives a real pathway forward for those of us still trying to navigate um, how to deliver online content. So and get engagement with students. So yeah, thank you so much. Um, Maybe Nora has a few more closing words.
Just a few to wrap us out. Thank you again, Elaina, for an excellent presentation. Doris, if you go ahead and turn off the recording, please.